Hi, this is Rachel coming to you with this week's Sparkle of Shabbat. And this week I wanted to talk about what does it mean to love Hashem with all of our might. As many of you know, I'm sure, one of our main prayers that we say in Judaism is the V'ahavta, and we talk about in the first line, and I believe it comes from Deuteronomy, the book of Deuteronomy, that we should love Hashem, our God, with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our might. And as a young child, I remember thinking, the might, would that mean fighting? What does might mean to a young child, or what does it mean in general? And I've come to learn that might can mean several different things. And I've seen written in several different prayer books that might can refer to all that is ours and all of our resources. So another way to think about it would be that we should love Hashem with all of our heart, with all of our soul, and with all that is ours, with all of our resources. And it always touches me when I read that interpretation, because it's a little more specific to me than all of our might. So let's unpack that a little bit. What might that look like? I wanted to tell a couple of stories about my grandpa of blessed memory that inspire me of how he loved with all of his might. He I guess my mom grew up in Washington, so he belonged to several different local synagogues, and they would call him often if they needed to make a minyan, to have 10 people praying for a minyan. And so he would often go to several different synagogues in the area, and would be that 10th man or 10th person, if you will, to fill up the minyan. And I really loved that that was him giving of his time, which can be in a top commodity for all of us. But I really felt that that was an example of giving of his time, and that was one of the resources that he had. He worked for the government, and he could get off work at a reliable time and get to the variety of synagogues in the DC area on time to make the minyan. So that was one of his resources. Another resource that he had, which is one of my very favorite stories about him, was a little bit of extra money as a younger man, because my grandpa got married a little bit later. He got married in his, I guess, young to mid 30s to my grandma, who was, I think, 12 years younger than him. So he had a friend who was going through medical school, and my grandpa actually paid for him to go through medical school. He said, you are a young married guy, you don't have the money, and I have the money, I'm not married yet, and let me pay for you to go to medical school. And I just love that story. My grandpa had the resources that he could honor somebody else, and in honoring each other, we honor the Almighty. That gentleman went on to complete medical school and went on to become a leading eye doctor and surgeon in the country. I love that story. So my grandpa had in that case, the resources, which were money, to be able to honor his fellow man and ultimately Hashem in that way. There are many other resources that we have, our talents, our abilities, and many other things. But it really inspires me that we can love Hashem with all the resources that are ours. And I hope that this Shabbat we can reflect on that and love in all the best ways that we can. Shabbat Shalom.